Warner Bros. Buried a Harry Potter deal that would have changed everything. And the reason they killed it is something they never wanted you to know. This wasn't a pitch deck. It wasn't a rumor buried in a Hollywood trades column. It was a signed development agreement negotiated in 2013 that would have given J.K. Rowling creative control over a 7-film Wizarding World expansion, including a chapter that would have brought back Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, and Rupert Grint. The deal existed. Then Time Warner made a phone call, and it vanished. Here's what they buried and why the real reason is so much worse than you think. The story starts in late 2012. Deathly Hallows Part 2 had just crossed $1.3 billion at the global box office, making it the highest-grossing film of the entire franchise. Warner Bros. Was sitting on the most valuable literary IP in history, and they knew it. David Heyman, the producer who shepherded all 8 films, had been in quiet conversations with Rowling about what came next. Not a prequel, not a limited spin-off. A full creative universe, a wizarding world that would run parallel to what Marvel was doing with the Avengers framework, with interconnected stories spanning centuries of magical history. The pitch was staggering. 7 films, developed over 15 years, covering the founding of Hogwarts by the 4 original founders, the rise of Grindelwald as a global dark wizard predating Voldemort, and a third strand set 20 years after the Battle of Hogwarts. The one that would have reunited the original trio as adult wizards navigating corruption inside the Ministry of Magic itself. By the spring of 2013, Warner Bros. Development team, working with producers David Heyman and Lionel Wigram, had a framework agreement with Rowling's representatives that included final script approval for Rowling, something she had never been granted on the original 8 films. That clause alone was unprecedented. It meant she held veto power over any creative direction. The deal was worth a reported $450 million in guaranteed production commitments. The deal was signed. Then it vanished. Here is where the story should have ended with something extraordinary. Instead, here's where it actually ended. Time Warner, Warner Bros. Parent company at the time, was quietly negotiating something far bigger than a movie slate. An expansion agreement with Comcast's NBC Universal over Wizarding World theme park licensing across the United States. You remember that Universal Studios attraction, the Wizarding World of Harry Potter that opened in Florida in 2010. That exclusivity arrangement, the one generating hundreds of millions in annual revenue for Universal, contained contract language that specifically limited what Warner Bros. Could produce theatrically in a given window without triggering a competing attraction clause. A legal mechanism buried in a licensing contract. Not a creative decision. A business trap. And here is the part they never told you. The 7-film development deal that Rowling had signed would have saturated the market with Wizarding World content on a timeline that directly conflicted with Universal's exclusivity window. If Warner Bros. Released more than a certain volume of Wizarding World theatrical content within any 3-year period, Universal could legally renegotiate the entire theme park arrangement, or walk. The park was generating licensing revenue that dwarfed what any individual blockbuster film returned in profit margin in a single calendar year. Warner Bros. Chose the theme park money. They shelved the 7-film universe, handed Rowling a smaller, narrower brief, 5 Fantastic Beasts films, no original trio, no Ministry storyline, no Founders chapter, and announced it as an exciting expansion. It wasn't an expansion. It was a containment strategy. Now here is the part that should make you genuinely angry. The Harry Potter universe wasn't killed by failure. It was killed by success. The theme park performed so well it had legally cornered Warner Bros. Into protecting a licensing stream over creative ambition. The very popularity of the Wizarding World had become the cage around it. Think about what that 7-film slate would have meant. An adult Harry Potter, played by Radcliffe, navigating the same corrupted institution he helped save. That is a story with real dramatic weight. A Founders chapter that would have rewritten what you thought you knew about Hogwarts' origins, drawn from notes Rowling had been developing for years. A Grindelwald arc with actual scale and proper pacing, before the Fantastic Beasts films compressed and ultimately fumbled that storyline across 3 progressively disappointing chapters. The franchise that followed, 5 planned Fantastic Beasts films that became 3, each one critically declining, the third so commercially weak it quietly ended the spin-off entirely. That was the compromise. That was what survived after the real deal died in a licensing clause nobody reported. And now Warner Bros. Discovery has announced a full Harry Potter television series for Max, returning to the original books. A complete reboot. Starting over entirely, Rather than honoring the universe the studio promised the woman who built this franchise in the first place. Rowling signed a framework deal in 2013 for a creative universe she believed would exist. It didn't. The studio replaced it with Fantastic Beasts and never publicly explained why the broader agreement collapsed. So here is the question Warner Bros. Still hasn't answered. Universal has since expanded its own parks, and pieces of that original exclusivity arrangement have quietly shifted, which means the legal barrier that buried the 7-film deal may no longer fully exist. So why hasn't Warner Bros. Gone back to those buried films? Unless there's another deal from another studio that explains exactly why they can't.